The stars glowed coldly against the black of space as the Earth delegation ship approached the massive orbital station of the Galactic Consortium. Admiral Park stood tall on the command deck, her uniform crisp and her expression calm despite the weight of responsibility she carried. Earth had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, and now found itself the newest member of an interstellar community that had existed for thousands of years. "Prepare for docking," she ordered, watching as the alien station grew larger in the viewscreen. Its architecture was a blend of at least 7 different species' design philosophies, a physical reminder of how young humans were compared to the other races. When the airlock doors finally opened, Park led her small team into a cavernous reception hall. Representatives from a dozen species waited, their body language obvious even across the barriers of biology. They were not impressed by humanity. "Welcome, Earth delegation," said the consortium speaker, a tall being with iridescent scales and 4 arms. "We have assigned you temporary quarters in the outer ring, suitable for junior members." Park bowed slightly. "We are grateful for the consortium's acceptance." The speaker made a gesture that translated roughly to dismissive acknowledgement. "Your technological achievements are adequate for consideration. Though we must note that developing basic gravitic drives took the Volare 3 centuries less than it took humans." Several alien delegates chittered in what Park recognized as laughter. She maintained her diplomatic smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "We are eager to learn," she replied simply. After the reception, the human delegation was escorted to their quarters, small, utilitarian rooms far from the station's center. Commander Lee joined Park in her temporary office, bringing data from their initial technical exchange. "They've given us access to their public archives," Lee said, "but it's all outdated technology by their standards. The restricted sections contain the truly advanced sciences." Park nodded. "They see us as children, Lee, but that's not necessarily a disadvantage." Lee raised an eyebrow. "You're thinking of the Leviathan." "I'm thinking of human history," Park replied. "Underestimated species often survive where the dominant ones don't." Far from this conversation, in the distant reaches of the Sol system, Director Kim floated in the observation deck of an installation hidden within Neptune's atmosphere. Below her, through reinforced windows, she could see sections of the HSS Leviathan as it underwent final assembly in the secret shipyard. Workers in specialized suits moved across its enormous hull, installing the last components of what would be humanity's greatest achievement. Unlike the conventional Earth ships that had transported Admiral Park to the consortium station, the Leviathan incorporated technologies that humanity had developed in secret, drawing inspiration from theoretical models and fragments of information gathered from deep space scans of other civilizations' vessels. "Status report," Kim requested, touching the communicator on her wrist. "Hull integrity at 98%, reported Chief Engineer Rio from the construction bay. Propulsion systems are operational. Weapons systems at 92% completion. We need another 2 weeks for full combat readiness." Kim frowned slightly. "We may not have 2 weeks. Continue the work at maximum pace." The Leviathan wasn't just large. It represented a fundamentally different approach to starship design. While other species specialized in singular technological paths, humans had integrated multiple systems in ways the older races considered inefficient or impractical. The result was a vessel that could perform functions no other single ship in the galaxy could match. 3 days after Earth's formal admission to the consortium, the first diplomatic crisis erupted. Admiral Park was summoned to the central chamber, where representatives of the Talon Empire, the dominant military power in this sector, waited with obvious impatience. "The Empire requires access to the mineral resources of your asteroid belt," stated the Talon diplomat, a sharp-featured humanoid with metallic ridges along his skull, "as payment for the protection we provide to developing worlds." Park kept her expression neutral. "Earth is now under consortium protection. We've received no notification of additional security requirements." The Talon's expression hardened. "The consortium provides basic diplomatic protection. True security comes from proper respect shown to the Empire. Other new members understand this arrangement. I'll need to consult with Earth government. Park replied carefully. You have until tomorrow, the Talon said. The Empire is lenient with new species who demonstrate proper deference. When Park returned to the human quarters, she found her team already assembled. The broadcast had been monitored, and Commander Lee had prepared analysis of similar encounters with other new consortium members. It's a pattern, Lee explained, displaying data on the wall screen. The Talon Empire demands resources from new members as protection fees. Those who refuse face military action disguised as security operations. And the consortium? Park asked. They look the other way. The older members have treaties with the Talons that protect them. Newer species are expected to prove themselves. Park's jaw tightened. They're bullies testing for weakness. Yes, Lee agreed. And based on historical data, if we surrender the asteroid rights, they'll demand lunar mining access next, then Earth orbital control within a year. Park was silent for a long moment, weighing options and calculating risks. Finally, she straightened her uniform and made the decision that would change humanity's place in the galaxy. Send a message to Director Kim. Operation Revelation is authorized ahead of schedule. In orbit above Earth, Talon Fleet Commander Duran observed the small defensive fleet the humans had deployed. His massive command ship dwarfed the largest Earth vessel, and his tactical display showed a clear technological advantage in every category. This would be a simple operation. Disable a few human ships, demonstrate overwhelming force, and accept their surrender. The human representative is hailing us, reported his communications officer. Ignore it, Duran said dismissively. Prepare targeting solutions for their orbital defense platforms. We'll destroy one as demonstration, then demand immediate resource transfer rights. He settled back in his command chair, already composing in his mind the report he would send to Imperial headquarters. Another primitive species brought to heel, another resource-rich system open to Talon exploitation. The humans would learn their place in the galactic hierarchy, just as all new species eventually did. What Duran didn't know, what none of the ancient species suspected, was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since they first detected alien signals decades ago. And hidden within Neptune's clouds, Director Kim gave the final order to unveil humanity's secret weapon to the galaxy. The orbital defense platform Aegis 7 erupted in a brilliant flash as Talon energy weapons tore through its shields. Commander Lee watched from Earth Command Center as the tactical display updated, another blue dot vanishing from the orbital grid. Platform 7 is down, reported a young lieutenant, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Platforms 3 and 5 reporting critical shield failure. Lee nodded grimly. Redirect reserve power from the civilian grid to reinforce their shields. Order all defense ships to maintain distance and continue evasive patterns. Around him, the command center hummed with tense activity. Officers relayed orders while technicians monitored the battle unfolding above their homeworld. They had trained for this scenario, but facing the reality of alien warships in Earth orbit was different from any simulation. The Talons are advancing in 3 groups, the tactical officer announced. Main fleet approaching Defense Line Alpha. Their weapons range exceeds ours by at least 30%. On the main screen, the Talon warships moved with precise coordination. Their sleek, predatory designs contrasted sharply with the more utilitarian human vessels. Each alien ship bristled with weapon emplacements that glowed with building energy. Admiral Park stood beside Lee, her face illuminated by the tactical displays. Status of Operation Revelation, she asked quietly. Lee checked his secure terminal. Director Kim reports 87% readiness. The Leviathan needs more time. Time we don't have, Park whispered, watching as the Talon ships pushed closer to Earth. We need another hour. Another defense platform exploded, and alarm klaxons wailed as a Talon battle group broke through the defensive line. One of Earth's best cruisers moved to intercept, firing all weapons in a desperate attempt to slow the advance. The cruiser's shields flared blue under the Talon assault before failing completely. The ship listed to one side, venting atmosphere and debris. "The Wellington is hit badly," Lee reported. "They've lost engines and main power." Park's knuckles whitened as she gripped the console edge. "Order immediate evacuation of the Wellington. All remaining ships, concentrate fire on the lead Talon vessel." Aboard the Talon flagship, Commander Duran observed the battle with growing satisfaction. The view screen showed Earth's defenses crumbling under his fleet's superior firepower. The humans fought with surprising skill and determination, but the outcome was never in doubt. "Their orbital platforms are at 40% capacity," reported his second-in-command. "Their fleet is taking heavy damage." Duran allowed himself a satisfied smile. These humans learned their place quickly. "Prepare the landing forces." His orders were interrupted as a junior officer rushed to his side. "Sir, sensors are detecting a massive energy signature near the outer planets." Duran frowned. "Clarify." It's emerging from Neptune, sir. The energy readings exceed anything in our database." The main screen shifted to show Neptune's swirling blue atmosphere. At first, there was nothing unusual. Then a disturbance appeared in the planet's clouds. Something enormous was rising from beneath the atmospheric layers. The HSS Leviathan broke through Neptune's cloud cover like a massive sea creature surfacing for air. Its hull gleamed with unfamiliar alloys, catching the distant sunlight in ways that made it seem to shimmer. The ship was unlike anything in the Talon database, not simply a larger version of existing human vessels, but something built on entirely different principles. Most shocking was its size, nearly 3 times larger than Duran's command ship, with proportions that defied conventional space engineering. Massive drive engines glowed at its stern as it accelerated toward Earth at speeds the Talons had believed impossible for human technology. "Impossible," Duran muttered, rising from his command chair. "Their technology is primitive. They can't have built this." His weapons officer stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "Sir, it's generating power levels comparable to our entire fleet combined." "Target that vessel immediately," Duran ordered, his previous confidence evaporating. "All ships, concentrate fire when in range." But the Leviathan was moving with astonishing speed, covering the distance from Neptune to Earth in minutes rather than the hours it should have taken. As it approached the battle zone, sections of its hull reconfigured, revealing weapon systems unlike anything the Talons had encountered. "They're powering weapons," the tactical officer reported, his voice rising. "Energy signatures don't match any known." The Leviathan fired before he could finish. Not the expected energy beams or projectiles, but cascading waves of golden light that seemed to bend and twist through space itself. The waves washed over 3 Talon cruisers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's shields flickered, warped, and collapsed as if they had never existed. A second salvo followed immediately, cutting through the now unprotected hulls with surgical precision. All 3 cruisers exploded simultaneously. Alarms blared throughout Duran's flagship as the tactical display updated to show the destruction. His most advanced warships, equipped with shielding technology developed over centuries, had been neutralized in seconds. "All ships, retreat," Duran ordered, real fear in his voice for the first time. "Emergency jump to safe coordinates." But the Leviathan was already moving again, positioning itself between the Talon fleet and their escape route. Its massive form seemed to ripple as additional weapon systems came online, targeting the remaining Talon vessels with unerring precision. "Jump engines need 2 minutes to charge," the navigator reported frantically. "We don't have 2 minutes," Duran responded, watching as another wave of golden energy tore through his fleet's formation. Back at Earth Command, Admiral Park and Commander Lee watched in stunned silence as the Leviathan decimated the Talon forces. What had been a desperate defense minutes ago was now a complete reversal of fortune. "Director Kim certainly delivered," Lee said quietly. Park nodded. "Open a channel to the Leviathan." Director Kim's face appeared on the screen, calm despite the battle raging around her ship. "Admiral, the Leviathan is performing beyond expectations. Shall we pursue the retreating Talon vessels?" Park considered for a moment. "No. Let half escape to carry the message. Target their flagship, but allow it to retreat once it's clear they're beaten." The Leviathan adjusted its attack pattern accordingly, disabling Talon ships without destroying them completely. Durand watched helplessly as his grand fleet was systematically dismantled by a single human vessel that shouldn't exist. When his flagship finally managed to jump to safety, less than half his original force remained. The humiliation was complete, not just defeat, but revelation. Humans weren't the primitive newcomers everyone had assumed. They had been hiding their true capabilities all along. And now the galaxy would have to reckon with what that meant. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Consortium buzzed with tension. Representatives from over 30 spacefaring civilizations sat in concentric rings around the central speaking floor. Many whispered urgently to their aides, while others argued openly with neighboring delegations. The emergency session had been called with unprecedented speed, bypassing the usual week of preparations. The consortium speaker, an ancient being named Shen, raised all four of his arms for silence. His scaled skin shimmered under the chamber lights as the room gradually quieted. "This emergency session will now begin," Shen announced, his translator making his complex tonal language understandable to all present. "As you are all aware, 3 days ago, a military confrontation occurred in the Sol system between Talon forces and the Earth Defense Fleet. The chamber's central holographic display activated, showing recordings from multiple sources. The images showed the massive human vessel emerging from Neptune's atmosphere, then systematically dismantling half the Talon battle fleet. Many council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as they watched the golden energy waves bypass shielding technology that had been standard for centuries. "The Talon representative has requested to speak first," Shen announced once the recording ended. Ambassador Duran, cousin to the fleet commander who had led the failed attack, strode to the center of the chamber. His metallic facial ridges caught the light as he turned to address the council, barely containing his fury. "The humans deceived us all," he declared, pointing dramatically toward the Earth delegation. "They presented themselves as technological infants while secretly building weapons of war. They violated the foundational principles of the consortium by hiding their true capabilities during their admission process." Murmurs of agreement rose from many of the older species representatives. The Volari ambassador, whose six-eyed face was nearly impossible for humans to read, leaned forward. "What the Talon says is true," she added. "The humans showed us primitive ion drives while hiding gravitic technology. They claim to be struggling with basic deflector shields while constructing a vessel that can neutralize our most advanced defense systems. This deception cannot go unpunished." The Norath representative, a being composed of what looked like living crystal, chimed in. "Perhaps we should consider why the humans felt the need for such deception." Its voice rang like wind chimes. The Talon incursion into their system was not sanctioned by this council. "A security operation," Durand dismissed with a wave. "The humans refused to accept standard protection arrangements." "You mean they refused to be extorted?" the Norath replied coolly. The chamber erupted into shouting as centuries-old political divisions surfaced. The speaker raised his arms again, calling for order. "The human representative may now respond," Shen announced when quiet returned. Admiral Park walked calmly to the center of the chamber. She looked small compared to many of the alien representatives, but her posture conveyed unshakable confidence. She wore her formal uniform, its blue fabric and gold trim a stark contrast to the exotic garments and natural coverings of the other species. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice clear and measured. "I will not deny that Earth has developed technologies beyond what we initially presented, but I ask you to consider why we felt this necessary." She gestured toward the display, which now showed historical records from the consortium archives. "We built the Leviathan because we studied your histories," Park continued. Every new species joining this consortium has been exploited until they prove they cannot be. The Ferrati were forced to surrender 3 colony worlds. The Xenthi had their homeworld's resources depleted. We simply condensed that timeline. Several representatives looked away uncomfortably as she referenced these historical events. Had we arrived openly with our most advanced technologies, would we have been welcomed as equals? Park asked. Or would we have been seen as a threat to be contained? The Talon representative scoffed. Pretty words to mask deception. Yet you entered our system with battleships, demanding resources, Park countered calmly, proving our concerns correct. The Yulari representative, whose species had joined the consortium only 50 years before humans, leaned forward in his seat. Unlike many others, he seemed more curious than outraged. How did humans achieve this technological leap so quickly? He asked. Our scientists estimated Earth was at least a century away from such capabilities. Park nodded appreciatively at the question. This speaks to a fundamental difference in how humans approach technology compared to many consortium species. She activated her own data device, and the central display changed to show the internal systems of the Leviathan. While others perfect singular technologies, humans excel at integration, Park explained. We don't invent in isolation. We combine, adapt, and improve across disciplines. The Leviathan isn't one breakthrough, but thousands working in harmony. The display zoomed in on various systems, showing how human engineers had combined principles from different scientific domains in ways no other species had attempted. For example, our shield technology incorporates principles from your Volari power distribution systems, Park continued, nodding to the 6-eyed representative, but applies them using concepts borrowed from Noreth crystalline computing. Neither approach is entirely new, but the combination creates something unprecedented. The technical display continued cycling through examples, showing how humans had studied fragments of various alien technologies and reimagined them through a uniquely human perspective. Several science advisors to various delegations were now leaning forward, their earlier anger replaced with professional curiosity. This integration approach is quite remarkable, the HFY delegate admitted reluctantly, though it still does not excuse deception. Perhaps not, Park acknowledged. But what would you have done in our position? We intercepted transmissions about the human problem before we even joined the consortium. We knew the Talon Empire was already planning resource extraction from our system. The speaker raised a hand. These accusations require evidence, Admiral. Park nodded and transmitted a data packet to the central system. Recorded conversations between Talon officials appeared on the display, clearly showing plans to exploit Earth regardless of their cooperation. The Talon representative's face darkened as his own government's private communications were exposed. This is outrageous. How did you access classified Imperial communications? The same way we built the Leviathan, Park replied simply. By combining technologies in ways you didn't expect. The council chambers erupted in debate as the implications became clear. Humans weren't just another species to be assimilated. They were something entirely new in the galactic community. Their approach to technology, diplomacy, and even espionage didn't follow the established patterns that had governed interspecies relations for millennia. The older species representatives gathered in one corner, talking urgently among themselves. Meanwhile, many of the younger species began approaching Park with questions about human technological integration. The North representative crystalline form shimmered as it addressed the Yulari and several other newer members. Perhaps we have been applying the wrong metrics to evaluate species advancement. The humans suggest a different path, one we might all learn from. The speaker eventually restored order, though the mood in the chamber had fundamentally shifted. What had begun as a trial of human deception had transformed into a serious reconsideration of the consortium's structure and assumptions. This matter requires further deliberation, Shen announced. The Council will reconvene tomorrow to continue this discussion and determine appropriate actions regarding both Earth's admittance status and the unauthorized Talon military action. As the session adjourned, Park found herself surrounded by representatives from a dozen species, all with questions about human technology and methods. The isolation she had expected had not materialized. Instead, Earth's revelation had sparked something new: curiosity and reconsideration from species who had long accepted the galactic status quo. The Earth embassy on the consortium station stood eerily quiet. Where once diplomats and traders from dozens of worlds had bustled through its corridors, now only human staff remained. The last alien visitor had left 3 days ago, when the Voleri trade delegation abruptly canceled negotiations for Earth minerals. Admiral Park stood at the window of her office, looking out at the vast structure of the station. Sections that had been open to human personnel were now restricted, their access doors glowing red when Earth identification was scanned. Commander Lee entered the room, carrying a data tablet. His usually immaculate uniform showed signs of strain, small wrinkles, and a coffee stain that spoke of long hours and little rest. "The HFY have recalled their scientific exchange team," he reported wearily. "That makes 17 species who have cut ties with Earth in the past week." Park nodded without turning from the window. "And the Elder Council. They'd been in closed session for 2 days. Our sources say they're drafting sanctions against Earth for technological deception and treaty violations." Park finally turned to face her second-in-command. "They fear us now," Lee observed, setting his tablet on the desk. "With good reason," came a new voice as Director Kim entered the room. Despite the journey from Neptune to the consortium station, she looked remarkably composed. The Leviathan represents a fundamental challenge to their technological hierarchy. For millennia, they've believed advancement follows a linear path they defined. We've proven otherwise. Kim activated a holographic display showing intercepted communications and fleet movements. Fear leads to poor decisions. The Talons are gathering a retaliatory fleet 3 times larger than before. Ships from their core worlds, reinforced with volunteers from their client states. Admiral Park studied the intelligence reports, her expression grave but determined. "Then we need allies. Contact the Yulari and the North Federation. They've faced Talon expansion too. They'll understand our position." Lee looked skeptical. "The Yulari barely acknowledged us at the council meeting, and the Norath are traditionally neutral." "Traditional approaches won't work now," Park replied. "We need to offer something valuable enough to overcome their caution." "Director Kim, can we share some of the Leviathan's integrated technology with potential allies?" Kim considered for a moment. "Selectively, yes. Our shield harmonics would greatly benefit the Yulari defense system without revealing our core integration methods." "Make it happen," Park ordered, "and arrange a private meeting with Ambassador Tull of the North. We need at least 1 elder species on our side when the sanctions vote comes." As Earth's diplomatic corps mobilized, something unexpected occurred. Detailed specifications of the Leviathan began appearing on the consortium's public information networks. Not military secrets, but engineering principles, efficiency ratings, and sustainability features that made the vessel revolutionary even beyond its weapon systems. The source of the leak remained unknown, though Earth denied responsibility. The information spread rapidly, particularly captivating the technical communities of younger species who had long chafed under the technological orthodoxy imposed by the elder races. In her quarters on the station, Park reviewed messages from a dozen worlds. Many from species Earth had barely interacted with before the Leviathan's reveal. "The Gen are requesting a meeting," Lee reported, scanning through communications, "and the Tory Defense Minister wants to discuss mutual security concerns." "Schedule them both," Park replied, "and send our latest propulsion efficiency data to the Yulari Engineering Corps with compliments from Earth." Meanwhile, far from the diplomatic maneuvering, the Talon Empire gathered its forces. Hundreds of warships assembled at strategic points, many advanced models pulled from defense duties across Talon territory. The message was clear: this would not be a mere punitive action, but a full military response designed to eliminate the human threat permanently. Aboard the new flagship, Commander Duran addressed his officers. The humiliation of his previous defeat had transformed into cold determination. His new vessel, the Imperial Judgment, represented the pinnacle of Talon military technology, with power systems and weapons specifically redesigned to counter the capabilities the Leviathan had demonstrated. The humans have disrupted the natural order of galactic development, he told the assembled officers, his voice carrying through the massive briefing chamber. Their reckless integration of technologies they barely understand threatens stability across known space. We will correct this aberration. Behind him, tactical displays showed the largest fleet the Empire had assembled in 3 centuries, over 200 capital ships supported by fighter squadrons and specialized assault vessels. Our intelligence indicates the humans possess only one vessel of the Leviathan class, Duran continued. However formidable, it cannot stand against our combined might. We will enter the Sol system in 3 battle groups, neutralize their supercarrier, and then implement the Emperor's Judgment Protocol on their homeworld. None of the officers asked what the protocol entailed, but several exchanged uneasy glances. Even in a military known for harsh measures, planetary-scale punishments were rare and controversial. We depart in 6 hours, Duran concluded, for the glory of the Empire and the preservation of the proper order. As the officers filed out, a young lieutenant approached Duran with a datapad. Her hand trembled slightly as she extended it to him. Sir, long-range scouts have detected something unusual in the Sol system. Duran frowned and took the pad. Explain. When we lost contact with our intelligence probe near Neptune, we redirected a stealth scout to investigate. The lieutenant's voice remained professional despite her obvious nervousness. They detected multiple energy signatures similar to the Leviathan, but in different orbital positions throughout the system. Duran stared at the sensor readings, his eyes narrowing as he processed the implications. How many? At least 4 distinct signatures, sir. Different configurations, but the same base technology. The Leviathan, it wasn't alone. Duran's fingers tightened on the datapad until his knuckles turned pale. Verify this information immediately. Full sensor sweep of the Sol system using our most advanced long-range arrays. Already in progress, sir. Preliminary results confirm the initial findings. The humans have constructed multiple supercarriers, each with slightly different specifications. Duran dismissed the lieutenant and went to his private chamber. The tactical situation had just become far more complex. 1 Leviathan had decimated half his previous fleet. 5 would be. His mind refused to complete the calculation. He opened a secure channel to the Imperial High Command. This was no longer a matter of restoring honor or disciplining an upstart species. The Talon Empire itself faced a threat unlike any in its long history. Back on the Consortium station, Admiral Park received the sensor alert that the Talon fleet had begun moving toward Earth. Simultaneously, a message arrived from the North ambassador accepting her meeting request, followed minutes later by similar messages from the Yllari and 3 other species who had previously refused Earth's diplomatic overtures. They've seen the Talon fleet mobilization, Lee observed. Nobody wants to be on the losing side. Or perhaps, Park suggested with a small smile, they've seen what Director Kim just revealed in orbit around Mars. Lee's eyes widened as he checked the latest tactical update. You deployed the Prometheus already. I thought it wasn't scheduled for reveal until after sanctions hearings. The best defense is sometimes a surprising offense, Park replied. The Talons aren't the only ones who can adjust their timeline. The Talon Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Over 200 warships formed a deadly wall of advanced technology, weapons primed and shields at maximum strength. At the center of the formation, the Imperial Judgment dominated the void, a massive battleship 3 times larger than any vessel in the previous Talon attack. Commander Duran stood on the command deck, watching as his tactical display updated with information about the human system. His officers worked in practiced silence, preparing for what they believed would be a decisive battle. Begin approach to Earth, Duran ordered. Maintain battle formation and prepare long-range weapon systems. Sir, his sensor officer interrupted, confirming multiple large vessel signatures in defensive positions around Earth. The main view screen shifted to show the human defense formation, where Duran had expected to see the single Leviathan surrounded by smaller conventional ships. 5 massive vessels now held position in a perfect pentagonal formation around Earth. Each supercarrier was clearly built on the same technological principles as the Leviathan, but with distinct configurations. The closest vessel to their approach vector was sleeker than the Leviathan, with visible weapon emplacements that tracked the Talon fleet with unerring precision. Another appeared to be primarily a carrier, surrounded by swarms of smaller craft that moved with impossible agility. A third bristled with what appeared to be sensor arrays, while the fourth and fifth showcased yet other specialized configurations. "Identify those vessels," Duran demanded, his voice tight. His intelligence officer worked quickly. "Based on energy signatures, we believe they are the HS Prometheus, HS Orion, HS Atlas, HS Helios, and the original HSS Leviathan. Each appears to serve a specialized combat role." The command deck fell silent as the implications became clear. One Leviathan had nearly destroyed half of Duran's previous fleet. 5 such vessels, each with specialized capabilities, presented a challenge that even their massive armada might not overcome. "Sir," the communications officer spoke hesitantly, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Parker Self, requesting to speak with you." Duran's first instinct was to ignore the communication and press the attack immediately. But tactical wisdom prevailed. "Put her through." Admiral Park's calm face appeared on the screen. "Commander Duran, I see the Empire has sent a significant portion of its fleet to our system. This ends today, human," Duran replied coldly. "Your deception and defiance of the natural order will be corrected." Park nodded as if considering his words. "Perhaps we should discuss this matter directly, Commander. I propose a meeting aboard the consortium neutral station positioned between our forces. Just you and me, with minimal security." Duran's second-in-command leaned closer. "It's a trap, sir." "If I wanted to destroy your fleet, Commander," Park said, apparently overhearing, "I would simply order my vessels to attack. This is an opportunity to resolve our differences without further bloodshed." After a tense moment, Duran agreed. 2 hours later, he found himself walking through the sterile corridors of a small consortium monitoring station positioned halfway between the opposing fleets. 4 Talon guards accompanied him to a conference room where Admiral Park waited alone. She rose when he entered, extending a hand in the human greeting custom. Duran ignored it and took his seat across the table. "Your species has disrupted centuries of galactic order," he began without preamble. "The Empire cannot allow this to continue." Park studied him with a calm that Duran found irritating. "You speak of order, Commander, but what you really mean is hierarchy, with the Talon Empire at its apex and newer species serving your interests." "A natural progression," Duran countered. "Elder species guide younger ones." "Guide or exploit?" Park pulled up a holographic display showing historical records of Talon resource extraction from dozens of worlds. "This isn't guidance. It's colonialism on a galactic scale." Duran waved dismissively. "Philosophical differences. The reality is simple. Your ships threaten the Empire, and we will not tolerate that threat." "You've analyzed our vessels," Park said, changing tactics. "You know what they're capable of. You can destroy some of our ships," she told him, her voice level. "Perhaps many, but not before we devastate your fleet and reach your homeworld. Is that outcome acceptable to the Empire?" Fury flashed across Duran's face. "You dare threaten the Talon homeworld?" "Not a threat," Park corrected. "A cost analysis. Neither of us wants this war. The question is whether the price of your natural order is worth the destruction that would follow." Duran's ridged brow furrowed as he considered her words. The tactical projections his staff had prepared showed significant Talon losses, even in victory scenarios. If the humans were truly willing to target the Talon homeworld in retaliation, "What do you want, human?" he asked, his voice tight with suppressed rage. "A new relationship," Park replied simply. "Equal respect rather than subjugation. Fair trade rather than exploitation. We don't seek to rule, only to be treated as equals." "And the other species?" Duran challenged. "Will you demand equality for all?" "Yes," Park said without hesitation. "The consortium should be a true community of equals, not a thinly veiled empire." Duran stared at her for a long moment, weighing options and calculating outcomes. Finally, he stood. "I will convey your proposal to the Emperor," he said stiffly. "The fleet will maintain position pending further instructions." Park nodded. "Thank you, Commander. I believe this is the beginning of a better future for all species." The negotiations that followed lasted 3 intense weeks. The Talon fleet remained in position near the edge of the Sol system, while diplomats from across the consortium arrived to participate in what became known as the Earth Accords. The original conflict had expanded into a fundamental reconsideration of how species interacted within galactic society. To everyone's surprise, the Talon Emperor himself arrived midway through the talks, the first time in 500 years that an emperor had left Talon space. His presence transformed the negotiations from crisis management to historic reformation. Within a month, the Galactic Consortium underwent its first major reform in 2,000 years. The tiered membership system that favored ancient species was abolished, replaced with representation based on current contributions and capabilities. Admiral Park stood before the newly constituted Consortium Council, addressing representatives from over 30 species. The chamber had been redesigned, no longer arranged in hierarchical rings, but in equal positions around a central speaking area. "Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't just military technology," Park told the assembled delegates. "It's our perspective. We combine what others create into something greater than the sum of its parts. Imagine what we can achieve together, rather than in hierarchy." The words resonated through the chamber. Even former adversaries like Commander Duran, now serving as the Talon ambassador, nodded in reluctant agreement. In the months that followed, the 5 human supercarriers became symbols not of war, but of a new approach to galactic security. Joint patrols with vessels from other species began, with each crew learning from the other's approaches to technology and tactics. The HSS Prometheus was converted into a deep space exploration vessel, carrying scientists from 12 species to study phenomena at the galaxy's edge. The HSS Atlas became a mobile research station where engineers from different worlds could collaborate on integrating their unique technological approaches. Most surprisingly, the Talons themselves began cautiously adopting human integration methods in their ship designs. When the first Talon-human collaborative vessel launched a year later, Commander Duran stood beside Admiral Park at the ceremony. "I still believe in order," he told her quietly as they watched the sleek new ship depart the construction dock. "So do humans," Park replied. "We just believe order can emerge from equal cooperation rather than imposed hierarchy." Duran made a sound that might have been a reluctant laugh. Perhaps that is the next stage in the natural progression, after all. As the reformed consortium embraced collaboration over domination, technological advancement accelerated. Species that had once guarded their innovations now found greater benefits in sharing and combining approaches. The galaxy entered a new era where adaptation and integration became as valued as tradition and specialization. And at the center of this transformation stood humanity, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for a more balanced cosmic community. Younger species who had long lived under the shadow of their elders now found their contributions valued. Older civilizations discovered new vitality by incorporating fresh perspectives. What had begun as a confrontation had become a renaissance. In her office on Earth, Admiral Park looked out at the night sky. The stars no longer represented distant threats or potential conquest, but a community working toward common advancement. "We didn't know what we would find when we reached the stars," she said to Director Kim, who stood beside her. "But I think we found something better than conquest or subjugation. We found equals." Kim nodded, watching as a Talon diplomatic vessel docked at the orbital station above. And in finding equals, we've all become something greater. The end.